Hi there. My name's Carrie Hewerdine. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm very honored to be able to share this information with you for NCRA and honoring May being our Mental Health Awareness Month. For those of you who don't know me, I've been a working reporter for 44 years. I've done CART, closed captioning, and freelance, and had even run a 2 satellite agency for about 10 years. And I'm still a working reporter. In 2018, kind of to understand more about me and my uncomfortableness, that thing of why I never felt good enough or successful enough to just be okay, I developed this voracious appetite to understand why we think the way we think, why we do what we do, why we seem to sabotage our own successes, our own goals. And I started devouring neuroscience studies, including neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis, hypnotherapy. And today I am a board certified clinical hypnotherapist and an international master trainer with what is called IAC, the International Association of Counselors and Therapists, and all of that while I'm still reporting full time because, yeah, I love it. And I've never been more at ease and able to make as much income as I have in the past 5 years. And I attribute that all to becoming mentally aware of what my thoughts are, where they come from, why I do the things I do. And so let me ask you guys, how many of you have ever had the thought, I must have been crazy to think I could do this? And crazy is a trigger word. In a trip to Australia, I think it was in 2006, I went to the Steve Irwin Zoo. For some of you, you may be familiar with his work with wild animals. And one of the animal caretakers there, when he found out that our group was from America, he just had to ask, how is Steve Irwin perceived in America? And I said, oh, that's Steve. He's so crazy. And the guy was visibly taken aback and quickly and emphatically defended, Steve's not crazy. He's just very passionate about his animals. And I thought, oh my God, I spent the next few minutes apologizing, trying to explain that in America, the word crazy can mean really great, kind of out there, outside the box, amusing but adorable and loving. Words are powerful and they mean different things to different people. So maybe mental health doesn't have to have a stigma so much as it's just a thing that's really difficult to define and even more difficult to understand. So when you find something like that in life, sometimes it's just easier to sidestep it than to try to dig deeper into it. And I think, thank goodness, the stigma is being lifted. And things like this, us becoming more aware, is the thing that's going to change that dynamic and that paradigm in not just our industry, but in the world. So let's look at a practical level, get the practical stuff out of the way first. Mental health is a healthy combination of three things. And if we have to have a definition we can all agree with and work with, it is emotional well-being, physiological, psychological well-being, and social well-being. So the emotional well-being part is the ability to experience a range of emotions and cope with them in a healthy way. This is ranging the spectrum from happiness, sadness, anger, fear, and anything and everything in between. Psychological well-being is our cognitive abilities, such as memory, learning, problem solving, and decision making. And this includes our sense of self-worth and confidence. Ooh, these are especially vital for court reporters. It is the root of who we are and what we are. And if you think about it, it's the thing that most likely brought you to court reporting. Finally, social well-being, the ability to form and maintain healthy relationships with others, to feel connected to our community and our society. And a lot of people forget just what an isolated profession this is. It is in school. It is us battling the method we choose to capture the record. We are alone in the struggle. We are alone in our failures, and often we're alone in our successes. We are alone even in the realm of that complete competence and confidence as we're out in the working world. We're usually always the only court reporter in the room. And so for court reporters, let's think about what I call the three demons of court reporters and court reporting students. And those are anxiety, stress, and overwhelm. The things that throw us off of our mental game. And I want these things to become the things that we all talk about openly and effortlessly with other professionals, because they are at the root of the problems that some of us see in our, not just our professional life, but in our daily life also. It's anxiety, stress, and overwhelm. So I think of anxiety as with its buddy, depression. We've got anxiety and depression. And the easiest way to understand, you all know what it feels like. Because if I asked you, can you make yourself anxious? Oh, you bet you can. All you got to do is think of too many things you need to do in too short a period of time, and the goal of success being a life or death situation. Bang, you've got chemicals surging through your body. You've got triggers happening all over the place. You are feeling anxious. And after we finish with that, you'll probably go into a short period of depression, because everything that's real is happening in the here and the now. As you're capturing words as they're coming at you and you're capturing that for the record, you're in the now. That's the moment of preciousness in the record keeping. But everything that is in the past is where the depression is. When you're in a state of depression, you're focusing on the things that have happened in the past that were bad, that didn't feel good, that we don't ever want to happen again. And ruminating through that, in that, and with that will cause depression. And depending on how long you consciously are aware of it and choose to be in it, is where the lifeboat is. Now, conversely, if you're focusing on things in the future, you're most likely, if you're in a point of depression, the future then looks different, because that's a place of anxiety. That's where anxiety, that's its realm of comfort. Because when you're in anxiety, you're basically focusing on all the bad things that could happen in the future based on what your brain knows has happened in the past. It's basically afraid that anything that was bad in the past is going to happen again in the future, and that's anxiety. And neither of those are going to get us what we need in the moment of being in the here and the now to capture the record, because the words aren't going to wait for us to delve into what happened in the past and explore what might happen in the future. And think about it, neither of those things are actually real, but they have a whole lot of power over how we feel and how we're able to operate in the day-to-day world. Keeping in that here and now, and that's that meditative place. But when we're in the zone, you've all heard, oh, I just love it when I'm writing in the zone. And for a long time, I'm like, where's that? What does that feel like? And we've all had those moments where just for an instant, if we're lucky, it's longer, we're in that place of it just flows. We don't even know what the words were, but we know we captured every single one of them. It's an amazing place, and it's a real place. And in my neuroscience studies, I've realized that is a brainwave state. You're in a certain brainwave when you're able to get in the zone. That's a whole nother video. So being aware of those three demons for court reporters is the first place we go to become aware, to be able to overcome them, to know how to deal with them in a healthy way. There's a tenet in Buddhism that says that the cause of all suffering is judgment and comparison. And when you think about it, for those of you in school, you know what it's like when you look on social media and you see, oh, that person just passed and I want to be happy for them, but why didn't I pass? And why are they getting out of school so fast? And are they doing a different theory? Is that why it's being easier? Did they switch to voice? Is that why it's being easier? All of those things. Though, why am I not getting the results that that person is getting? But we don't know their background. We don't know their backstory. We don't know that their triggers and their holdbacks and their doubts and their confidence is different than yours, because our backgrounds from the moment we came onto planet Earth are different for each of us, even though in court reporting, a lot of our things are similar. And so judgment and comparison, comparing yourselves to the progress of others. And this can even work in the reporting world, because I'm guilty of it, going out in the field and being, going into the office at the end of the day. And I've had what was supposed to be an all-day job, and it wound up being a 1-hour accident with 2 attorneys, and one didn't even order a copy, damn them. And then so-and-so's coming out of her conference room, and it's like, how many attorneys are in there? 6? And they're all ordering copies, and she's got 200 pages. And I'm thinking, I got to do 50 of those little jobs to get what she just did in one day. And I'm judging that I should get that. And I'm comparing what I'm getting to what she's getting. It's the judgment and the comparison that, first of all, will derail you from what's real, but it'll make you feel bad. And the feeling bad is not going to push you forward. So it's part of the essence of mental health, is recognizing what triggers you, and then recognizing what you can do to pull back and have those things not be so essential to what you feel like should happen. Which brings me to a great statement that a therapist friend of mine told me a very, very long time ago, as I was sitting talking about how, that shouldn't be that way, and this should have happened, and he shouldn't have done that, and I should be able to get the jobs that everybody else is getting, and why isn't it that way? Because it should be. And he said, Carrie, it's a really shouldy world. Is that where you want to be? I thought for the first time, oh my God, should. Every time I'm thinking of what should be, I'm not just accepting where I am. Now, where you are is not necessarily where you want to continue to be, but you got to accept where you are in the moment to be able to move forward. It's part of looking at things in a healthy way. It is a shitty world, and just remembering that has changed a lot of things for me. So something else I want to share with you is a concept I was introduced to in my first hypnosis class, which is something called the rules of the mind. And I had no idea that there were rules of how our mind thinks and how we bring into fruition things that we want in our lives and things we don't want. It's the whole concept of affirmations. And if someone was to ask me, do affirmations work? I would say no, because usually people come up with affirmations that either they don't truly, deeply believe, or they're couched in terms of not in the present tense. For example, you can tell yourself, I'm going to be a court reporter, I'm going to be certified. And you can tell yourself that all day long. And eventually you may be. But basically what you're telling that part of you that listens and creates and manifests things for you is you're telling that part of you that it's going to happen sometime, somewhere, way down the line, maybe somewhere, but not today, because today it's not going to happen. It's going to happen sometime in the future. So when you're doing affirmations, you've got to have something that you truly is generic enough that you believe in it, and that is in present tense. So the phrase, the words I am, are extremely powerful if you can tag on to that something that you can believe in. I am giving it my all. I am worthy of having what everybody else has. I am learning and getting better every single day. That's why that silly phrase, every day in every way I'm getting better and better. Well, you can believe in that, because hopefully every day and every way I'm not getting worse. Although sometimes when we're practicing and not getting the results, we start comparing and realizing, thinking that we are not getting better. Trust me, there's always a learning and a processing going on behind the scenes that you may not be aware of. It's not quantifiable. That's what makes it so freaking frustrating. So back to the rules of the mind. And if any of you would like a list of the rules of the mind, get a hold of me. I'll give you a way to do that at the end of this session. And I'm happy to share those with you. They're kind of amazing. The first one that I was taught was that you always get what you focus on. Your mind, and I use mind and brain all, interchangeably, but your mind always gives you more of what you focus on. And so for those of us who have our negative affirmations of, I'm never going to pass a test, I'm never going to get out of school, how come everybody always gets to have what I want and I can't have it? You're focusing on that. You're focusing on the negative side of what you actually want instead of trying to embrace it, what you want, and looking at not just saying, I want that, because conversely, in a weird way, when you say what you want, you're also declaring to the universe that you don't have it. And your brain will give you more of what you focus on. I want, therefore, I don't have. So here, have some more of the don't have. You're not ready for what you actually want yet. So instead of saying I want, how about just doing a mental exercise, which I call imagination therapy? Go to a quiet, sacred, quiet place for 5 minutes a day and just sit there calmly. Make it sacred so that your brain knows something special is happening here, something different's going on. Light a candle, put on some music, do some incense, do whatever it is makes you know that this 5 minutes is something special and sacred, and it's going to change things. Because in that 5 minutes, like a child, you're going to let your brain, your imagination just run wild with what is it going to look like when I have the thing I want? What is it going to feel like? What am I going to feel like? Who am I going to be when I'm in that situation? And let yourself have the liberty to feel it, to embrace it, to actually let the emotions rise up in your body, which is powerful, and feel what it feels like when you have that thing you want. If you can't imagine you doing it, imagine yourself seeing somebody else doing the thing that you want to do. For students, it's really powerful. That's why internship is so powerful. It's not so much about, can I keep up with what they're saying? Because you could be doing internship and sitting in with somebody when you're in 120 and you're not gonna keep up with them. But you're going to make that environment more familiar. And your brain is afraid of what's unfamiliar because it doesn't know how to protect you in unfamiliar territory. But once you make something familiar by repeating it over and over again, your brain learns by repetition. That's another rule of the mind. Once you make something familiar, your brain is more apt to let you go there easily and effortlessly because the fear of unsafety has been removed. And so that's another rule of the mind, is your brain will try to take you towards what's familiar, even if it's not healthy for you, because it knows how to cope and it knows how to deal with stuff that's unfamiliar. But things that are unfamiliar, it will absolutely try to derail you away from that. And so a lot of the students that I work with, when they're in that breaking point of 180 to 225, and they start the realization of, oh my gosh, this is going to happen for me. When that clicks in, sometimes the fear of the unknown really hits hard. And I've got to get them to the point where they realize that they've been in school for so long that they feel like this is the devil I know. And out there is the devil I don't know. And what if I get out there and I fall on my face and I prove to them how incompetent I actually really am because I don't believe in myself. And that's just an enormous fear that may not even be on the surface enough for you to realize that it's there. It's amazing what your brain does in order to keep you safe, because there's a part of your inner being, your inner workings, that is its only function is to keep you alive on the planet for one more day. I love that part of me, although that's the part that sets me up to sabotage myself also when it's not ready to let me go to a place I think I'm ready to go to, because it's trying to protect me from what it feels like could be certain demise. That part of you will end every sentence with ... and then you die. And it will be able to connect up every dot along the way so that always it ends in dot, 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 and then you die, because everything to it is a life or death situation. Even taking a test that can change your life forever in the most wonderful, amazing, magical ways. It doesn't know what those are. It has a different filter. It's just looking at safety, only looking at safety. And we're going to come back to that in a little bit. One of the last things about the rules of the mind that I think is really important for us to really be aware of in order to get the best results is to know that your brain cannot hold two conflicting thoughts. And you know, we've all been in that moment when we're driving down the road and we're ruminating about something that's happened, you know, that, oh my God, I should have said this. They said this and I didn't say anything and I just froze and I should have, and blah, 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 all the just, and you just, your brain will just keep going on it. Somebody described it as, you know, somebody cuts you off in traffic and you yell at them and then they're gone and they're on with their day because they don't care. It's not in their real estate in their mind. They're on to the next thing. And yet that anger, that rage, that disappointment, that frustration is taking up real estate in your head. And there's nothing you can do to change it. There's nothing you can do to fix it. And that person isn't even aware of it anymore. And that will overlay into a lot of situations in your life. But those two conflicting thoughts, if you think of them in your mind as a train, a railroad train, and you've got two engines to two different trains, and they're hooked up to each other by the back end. So here's our operative end. And this side is thinking one thought and pulling the trains along. And then all of a sudden, this thought comes in and starts more strongly pulling the train along. And they both just keep tugging back and forth, but they're equal in power. And so you're not going to get anywhere. The only way to get rid of looping thoughts is to get rid of one of the thoughts. First of all, you have to realize and be aware of what your thoughts are. In other words, I must do this, but I don't know how to. But I have to succeed, but I'm not sure I can. What if I fail? I have to, but what if I don't? And back and forth you go. The simplest way, you may not like this, but the simplest way is to just get rid of one of them. I have to, but I can't. Okay, pick one. I have to, therefore I will. I don't know how, but I'm going to. Or I can't. Maybe you're right. Maybe this isn't for you. There's a 90% dropout rate for a reason, and that's okay. Once you let go of one of those thoughts, then this one has a chance to manifest what it is it thinks you believe, which is another rule of the mind, is that your brain will give you exactly what it thinks you want. So be very precise in what you think and what you say and what you feel. That feeling is the connection to your subconscious, where your programs are. There's more videos out there about that if you'd like to learn more about it, but that's where the power is in the feeling. It's not just the saying it, it's the knowing it and the feeling it and the embracing it. And that's why so many of us sit back and look at everybody else and realize that I can't do that. I can't have what they have. And I love it. My first hypnosis teacher looked at us and she said, you know, with this beautiful English accent that I cannot replicate, but it was like, darling, let me tell you that there are only three things wrong with anyone. I thought, you have not worked with me yet. She said, either you think you're not enough of something, of anything. You're not pretty enough. You're not smart enough. You're not from a good enough family. You don't dress well enough. You're not enough of something. Or you think you're different. And so you can't connect. So you isolate and you pull back and you don't want to be judged. Third thing, the magic. You think there's something out there that's available to other people, but it's just not available to you. Wow. Once you start realizing that that's everybody, that's all of us all the time in different arenas, in different areas. But once you identify those things within yourself, you can start identifying them in other people, which makes your interactions with other people so much easier. And the part about being afraid of connecting with other people, once you realize that everybody has the same fears, then connecting with other people is not nearly as frightening, because usually everybody else is more frightened than you are. So learn to reframe things also. Not just, what's wrong with that guy? What's wrong with that person? Why'd they do that? To just kind of sit back and say, wow, I wonder what happened to that person to make them like that. Because it's not about you. Once we can get out of that feeling that everything's about me, first of all, it's good to have yourself be the center of your own world, to take care of yourself that way. But what other people are doing is really not about you. It's about them. What you're seeing within them is a mirror of what's going on in the inside of them, their own triggers, their own fears, their own shortcomings, their own doubts about who they are. When somebody tells you what's wrong with you, you can pretty well rest assured that that's probably something they're dealing with. And my favorite is that, ooh, when somebody told me this for the first time, I didn't know how to take it. Carrie, everybody else's opinion of you is none of your business, because they're wrong. And I'm thinking, well, what if they get it wrong and they don't know who I am, and then they think poorly of me, or they tell somebody else something that's not true about me? Not any of your business. People get to do what they want. They get to say what they want, even if it's not true. If you hold your truth firmly inside of you, the rest of it doesn't matter. None of it matters. And their opinion of you is going to be wrong, even if they adore you, because they don't know the backstory that's you. They don't know all the flaws about you that you know about you. They don't know all the accomplishments of you that you know about you. They don't know the heart that you have and why you do the things that you do. You need to hold on to that, because the only person's opinion of you that matters in this whole big world is yours. What is your opinion of you? So let's get on to a little bit more of the good stuff. I'm going to get the ordinary stuff out of the way, and we'll get to the hacks, the tips and the tricks and the tactics to stay on a healthy track. And we all know, we've heard about mindfulness and meditation, good stuff, important. Physical activity and movement, really good stuff, very important. Sleep and routines, good stuff, very important. Mindfulness and meditation, I think that is awareness and allowing yourself to have those moments of calm. Physical activity and movement, it's important, but it's more important than what we've been taught about, because for a lot of us, we have trauma from early on in our lives, or episodic trauma that happens along the way. You can't live this life and not have trauma. But that trauma literally gets locked into the cells of your body, which is why when you feel anxiety, you feel it. I used to think, what's in my head? Until somebody said, really? Where in your head do you feel it? And I thought, I don't feel it in my head. I feel it right there in my gut. I feel it in my stomach. I feel it right there in my chest. Yeah, because it's in your body. There's a whole realm out there called somatic therapy, which can really help you let go of, release the trauma that's locked in your body. There's a mental component to it too, but great stuff. Physical activity and movement, especially with such a sedentary profession that we have, it's really important. And then sleep and routine. And I'm going to dig into these really quick, because sleep is the time, when we're in deep delta sleep, is the time when our body is able to make new cells. It doesn't make new cells when you're up running around. You're burning cells, you're burning them out, you're using them, you're pushing them to their limits. And at night is when your body is able to recoup its strength and its energy, recuperate, to heal the cells, to dispose of the old dead cells, and to bring in new, rejuvenated, live, new, brilliant cells. You need those cells for your body's physicality in capturing the record, the thing that you do while you're capturing the record. The muscles that you use in your body need to have that restorative rest. But here's the kicker that I only learned about a year ago, and that is that your neural pathways, those things that you want to change when you have a habit and you want to double down on the good thoughts and get rid of the older thoughts that don't carry you where you want to go. Those neural pathways, when you think a thought you've never thought, you create a neural pathway. It's like, Boom, there it is. Now, you've got to repeat that thought a couple of times in the next 36 hours, or it slowly will fade away. Because the things that wire together, fire together, wire together, they hook up permanently. And so that's why we think that we're hardwired to do certain things or to think a certain way, but that's not true. It's just the routine and the habit, the pattern that your mentality has been in. It's what your neurology has wired you to. But those things are not fixed forever. There's neuroplasticity at any age. You guys know who I'm talking about. And it works for everybody. But those neural pathways only get bigger and stronger and connect in a network setting when you're sleeping. I didn't know that. I used to have sessions with people for hypnosis and not realize to tell them, now you're going to, for the next 36 hours, you're just going to let it all go. And you're going to let your body, your mind, and your emotions just process that information. I used to hate that word. Like, what the hell does process mean? Is that, do I need a blender? I know what processed foods are. They're not good for you. What the hell is processed? Processing is when you, I don't know if you've ever found yourself in a moment where you're having a realization of something you never knew before, and it kind of dumbfounds you for a moment, and you think this could be useful in the future, in one way or another. And you kind of sit there in that moment of not even knowing how to analyze it. You're actually processing. You're allowing your own neurology to do what it does best. You're stepping out of the conscious, analytical, got to fix it, got to make it better way, and just letting it happen. But for court reporters, it's like, no, we don't let things happen. We have to make them happen or they don't happen. But not in that realm. There's that push and then pull back. We'll talk about that again a little bit later. So the mindfulness and meditation, the physical activity and movement, the sleep and the routines, these are the foundational cores. And y'all know them. So do it. Just do that part. Here come the hacks for students and reporters. Now, what I have developed in the last 6 months is a realization that hacks, the things that the shortcuts, the tips, the tricks, they derive from one base premise. Above all, we desire peace. Whatever that is for you, peace. We want more income so we don't have a deficit of, onslaught of bills, so we can meet our needs. We want the new car, we want the new machine, the new equipment, the new clothes, the new place to live, the certificate. We want all these things. As Abraham Hicks says, we want the things for the feeling that it will give us. And if you can go to the feeling it will give us, you will literally pull that to you like a magnet, because you're in touch with the feeling that it would feel like if you already had it. That premise is peace. You don't want conflict. You don't want frustration. You don't even necessarily want happiness or contentment. You want peace. You want ease and ebb and flow and gentleness. You want peace. Here's the catch. There can be no peace without safety. All unease derives from a perceived lack of safety, which takes us back to that part of you that wants to protect you at all costs. It wants to keep you alive on the planet for one more day, and it doesn't understand what you want. And that test that you're worried about, or hooking up that job to real time, what are they going to say? Am I going to be able to do it? That those are things you want. Those are hurdles and challenges that you want to aspire to make you bigger and better and have more confidence. We think we all want confidence. What we actually want is the courage to keep plowing through until we've accomplished the thing we want. And then we stand on the top of it and say, whoa, now I'm confident. That's where confidence comes from. So let me go through these. I've picked out the ones that I think are just the most powerful, and then I'll analyze each one of them. Don't worry about taking all this in at the moment. Just sit back and let it process. Number one on everybody's list is breathing. I breathe. I know how to breathe. I've been breathing since the day I was born. Sure, you have. And when you're under stress, you breathe really high, really shallow, really fast because your body is in a fight and flight situation, it thinks, and it needs to be ready to run or be ready to fight. And so for those two things, you're going to find yourself breathing really shallow and really fast. What I want you to understand is when people say you've got to pay attention to your breath, please don't worry about paying attention to your breath when you're in a test, because you're going to find those moments where you go, and you just, unless you're a voice writer, and you just got to allow that to happen and then realize that you're going to come back into a stasis of breathing and it's going to be okay. What you don't want to do is to be so erratic and not give yourself a chance to come to a place of calm and safety and being grounded and anchored before you take a test, before you go into a job that you don't think you have all the information on, because your brain likes what's familiar. And if you don't have all the information, we must be going into the unfamiliar, and then you die. Anxiety comes back up again. So breathing. I think breathing is, when we talk about the hacks for getting over anxiety and being in a place of mental health, breathing is important for a lot of reasons, because when you breathe, when you deliberately take control of your breath, which it's part of your autonomic nervous system, and there are only two things you have control over in that system. One of them is your breath, your breathing, and the other is blinking, your ability to blink. You have control over that. You don't have control necessarily over your blood pressure or over your lymphatic system. Your autonomic nervous system is taking care of all of that. When you're sleeping, it's taking care of the breathing for you so you don't die. Pretty amazing. But the breath in and of itself, I think of as it's the link. It's the thing you have control of, and it is the link between your conscious awareness, your frontal cortex, your thinking, and your subconscious, where all your programs, all your doubts, your fears, and your motivation is actually located. And when you think of the fact that you have access to this part, the thinking, conscious, creative part, about 5 to 10% of the time, and the rest of the time you just drop down into your subconscious, which is just programs. It's just routines and habits and programs, a lot of which you may not even know about. So the breathing actually gives you a conduit. It gives you a bridge between what I want and the part of me that can make it happen. It's magical. It connects all of those things for you. It also will trick your brain if you can deliberately breathe slowly and deeply for just a few moments at your pace. Breathing in, the only thing I think about the breath, what makes it magical, is if at your pace you breathe in, and then as you exhale just a little bit slower than the breath in, and then just repeat that, and then repeat that, because the slow out breath will actually calm your nervous system, and it'll change your heart rate, and it will pull you down into a place of being grounded in your body. This is a state you want to be in before you take the test, so that you can and you will, ready, begin, boom, right into 225 or whatever the speed is that you need to hit, because that's a mental thing. That's different. You've got your body grounded, your mind can click into wherever you need to hit the speeds in the focus and blocking everything else out that you need. So blocking everything out, that comes down to triggers and what I call triggers and glimmers. Because for most of my life, I always thought they were just triggers, things that were bad that happened in the past that trigger me, that make me feel bad, that make me worry and stall me out and keep me from going forward. Those are the triggers. If you know what your triggers are, that's half of the battle. And we may never know what all of our triggers are, because some of them, frankly, are under the surface. They are subconscious. They are the thing that, I mean, I've talked to people like, I hate cornbread. I don't know why, but I hate it. Okay, isn't that curious? Wonder where that came from. Or a client I worked with once who had, this is so weird. She had this superstition that when she would see a red car or a red truck, bad things would happen. Now, I knew from CHP officers that if you have a red car or red truck, you are going to be spotted on the freeway far beyond other cars. And so more tickets happen for people in red vehicles, but I digress. For her, she couldn't understand it. She just figured it was just something stupid. And I have to, with sheer willpower, get over this fear of these things that are red. In a hypnotic session, in a relaxed state, she remembered an episode when she was 3 years old. And this is the brilliance of hypnosis and hypnotherapy is I'm not doing anything. I'm just guiding the session. She realized in this memory that she had that I've never solved a murder mystery. You always go back to memories that you know about. Sometimes you dig a little deeper and remember one that you hadn't remembered in a while. But for her, she said, I remembered being in the grass and I'm playing in the grass and it was a beautiful day. And this red truck went by and I felt this horrendous pain in my foot because I stepped on a bee. Now, she didn't know she'd stepped on a bee until later, when at the hospital, they pulled the stinger out and explained to her that the bee didn't mean to hurt her. It was just very sad because he gave up his life trying to save himself with the only sting he had. So she realized consciously that the pain came from the bee, but subconsciously, a trigger had been laid down. A program had been laid down that said when red trucks go by, pain happens. 3 years old, can't connect it to anything else, but that part of you is trying to keep, in her case, keep her safe from those things that cause so much pain. It's amazing what your brain can connect up. So once you become aware of your triggers, you're going to be in a whole lot better state to be ready for them, especially in the court reporting world where we are exposed to so much vicarious trauma. We are in situations all the time where we're being triggered and sometimes we don't even know about it. Have you ever taken a test or been in a job where all of a sudden you're doing great and then all of a sudden you just kind of lose it for a second and you wonder, what the hell is that about? There may have been a red truck mentioned in your dictation or something that reminded you of something that reminds you of something that reminds you of something. And we have to be on the alert for all of that because ... and then you die. And then when you don't die, your brain goes on to the next thing, you jump back in and you're right back on top of the record like you were before the trigger hit. So to balance out triggers, first of all, become aware of them. And then on the other hand, I didn't know this was a thing called glimmers. And that is if there are things from your past or things in the world that can trigger you in a bad way to make you feel bad, are there things in the world that can trigger you in a way that make you feel wonderful? They're called glimmers. And the therapist that taught this to me said, I'm going to hold for just a moment. We're on Zoom. And I want you to go outside. And I don't want you to come back until you have found something that just delights your soul, something that just makes you feel so light and so full of love that you're just feeling bubbly and effervescent and it's just consuming all of you. And I thought, we're going to be out here a long time because I had a really traumatic childhood and my brain learned that glimmers, those aren't threats. We need to ignore those. We're just going to focus on the stuff that could possibly hurt us. So it took a very long time for me to stand out there until a butterfly came by. And had I not been consciously aware at all, I might not even have noticed the butterfly. But it was the beginning of learning that I can be on the lookout for things that make me feel amazing, instead of just being at the whim of things that make me feel not so good. So glimmers and triggers. Next, pushing and resting. And I've gone over this a little bit about when you get in that deep delta sleep is the time when the cells in your body are able to recreate new cells and also new neural pathways. So as much as some people think, I'm writing, I'm pushing, I'm practicing all the time, I don't know why I'm not getting the results. Well, you may not be getting the results because you're not allowing your physiology and your psychology, your neurology, to have that time to figure out where everything goes. In those processing moments where you get a new idea, a new thought, a new way of doing something, and you go, yeah, I want to do that. And your brain goes, that's a great idea, new neural pathway, but it's not connected to anything. And if you're not repeating it, it's going to fade away. But even if you do repeat it, if you don't give it restful time to connect to the other things, the other networks in your brain, it's not going to be able to quickly navigate the networks in that nanosecond that you need to be able to get the goal met that you're looking for. So push and rest, and push and rest. And I promise you, your life will change, especially for you students out there. The next thing I want to share with you is something called bilateral stimulation. It was taught to me by Melissa Tier, who is a phenomenal hypnotherapist in Manhattan, charges $800 an hour. So let's take this tip from her. Grab any object. I like cell phones because they're usually handy. They're nice and weighty, and they're easy to transfer from hand to hand. Right here in the center of your brain is what's called the corpus callosum, connecting tissue, left brain, right brain. And as a neuroscientist, it was a neurosurgeon in San Francisco whose deposition I was taking, was trying to explain to some attorneys one time about how your left brain and your right brain work, but even if you're a left brain person or a right brain creative person, that we still do it in switching back and forth very quickly. And he actually stopped the deposition to explain to them how this court reporter has an incredible, amazing brain. I'm like, what? And then he went on to explain how she's hearing the words that she's hearing. They're coming in and they're being processed in an analytical way by her left brain. And then in an instant, she flips over to the creative side that says, how is the best, fastest way to write that? I know the word I heard before, that word that I'm on now, and I know what's coming next because that part of you has supersonic hearing. And so if it knows what came before and it knows what's coming next, it knows the fastest, best way to write whatever it is she's in the middle of writing. So she does. She executes it. Then she's looking at her screen and she's going back to the left side of her brain to say, is that exactly how I wanted it? It's not. How am I going to fix it? Back to the creative side of the brain. And she's doing that in a nanosecond at how many words per minute? Oh my, 200 plus. Yeah, she's got an amazing brain, and she's doing that faster than you can imagine. Court reporters are phenomenal. And I remember sitting there and literally, I was back in my single days, literally looking at the third finger on his left hand. Was this man married? Because he understood me like nobody had. So we're going to stimulate both sides of your brain so that you're going to be able to flip back and forth between those two things very quickly. Plus, if you're having a moment of anxiety, of doubt, of a feeling you don't like, this will calm it and get rid of it instantly. Take the object you have, put it between your hands, holding it with one hand to start with, and we're going to literally pass it back and forth past the midline, and we're going to make the exchange on the other side of the midline. And I want you to just do it like this. It's going to lose in my video, but just back and forth. You can go as far to the right or the left as you want. To the left, to the right. It's backwards for you guys. You're just going to pass it back and forth. There's no right way to do this as long as you're passing the midline. And I want you to do that with whatever object you've chosen until you start feeling, it won't take very long, a few seconds, and it clears out your mind, the chatter stops. You can't do this while you're writing, unfortunately, but it will calm down your nervous system. It's an amazing technique that's quick, that you can do anywhere with anything, with a ball, with a pencil, with a pen, and nobody has to know what you do. What the hell are you doing? I don't know, I'm working on my biceps. work on my forearms, work on my wrists, what is it to you? Just try it. Give it a try next time you feel anything that you don't like feeling. Real quickly, athletic-like visualization is what I call it. I also call it imagination therapy. It's the 5 minutes I want you to take every day to re-visualize you in that new version of you, stepping into who you are and what it feels like and what that person's life is like, and to feel it as if it is you, to let your little childlike imagination have as much fun as it can imagining. And the next time you come back, imagine it in a different way. And the next time you come back, imagine it in a different way. If you can't imagine you, imagine somebody else doing the wonderful things that you want to be doing. See it because it's real and it can happen. And if it can be that way for anybody, it can be that way for you, because everything that is available to anybody is available to you. Next thing is something I call what if thinking. And that's when you hear yourself saying the negative things. It's not actually you saying it. It's that chattery part of you saying it. When you hear the chatter saying negative things about you or about something you've done, about a shortfall you've had, about a fail you've had, I want you to challenge it. You are so stupid. You're never going to get out of school. Whoa, time out. We don't talk to me like that anymore. I'm so stupid. We're stopping everything right in our tracks. Let me tell you how not stupid I am. And then you go through a list as big as you can. You're making that part of you stop to listen to all the magnificent things that you have done, the things that nobody thought you could do that you did, the things you didn't even think you could do that you did, the times when you just got lucky. Go down the list of all the things that you have enabled for your life that are because you're not stupid. And I don't want to ever hear that again. And if you do, we're going to stop and we're going to go through this whole process again. I'm going to derail you just like you're trying to derail me, because I wouldn't let my best friend talk to me like that. And I'm not going to let you talk to me like that. What if? You are so stupid. Oh, really? Well, what if I'm actually not? You're never going to get out of school. What if I do? You're never going to really be a court reporter, making all those big bucks like you hear everybody else making. Oh, yeah? Well, what if I do? What if I am? What if, what if, what if? Those two words will set you free and change the trajectory of your life. It'll be a paradigm switch for you in every way. And that positive self-talk, the thing that you're doing when you're talking back to that part of you, make that a habit. When you're alone, where nobody can judge you and criticize you, talk out loud. Talk to yourself. When you're getting ready in the morning to go out and face your day, I want you to look in the mirror and I want you to say, you're freaking phenomenal. You got it going on. I don't care that you haven't accomplished everything you haven't been able to accomplish yet, because it just means it's ready to happen for you. But look how far you've come. Look who you aren't anymore. You're not a little kid with no control, with no ability to make decisions, with no ability to navigate your life the way you want to. You're not that person anymore. You're a totally different person. And in the next 10 minutes, in the next 10 hours, in the next 10 months, you're going to be a totally different person based on the things that you say to yourself, on the things that you want for yourself, on the things that you think are possible for you. And the last thing on my list of hacks that I use all the time is something I call cord cutting. Because we all have those emotional, psychological connections to other people that sometimes we just need to get rid of. They're not good for us. Sometimes when it's your family, it's a little harder to do that. But those things, those connections can also be to younger versions of us that don't exist anymore. We got to love them and honor them and what they had to go through. But we're not that person anymore. And it's okay to say, I love you. You're always going to be a part of me. But I need to cut this cord with you in order to go on to what's meant for me next. And there are whole cord cutting ceremonies that you can do. You can make it as elaborate or as simple as you want. So finally, what I want you to take away from this, because I know court reporter brains you're going to immediately go into this mode of multitasking and wanting to do everything. I'm just going to put everything into action. And oh my God, I don't even remember half of what she said because she talked so fast. And that's okay. The part of you that needed to hear it will hear it. Actually, the subconscious part of you heard everything. And it stored everything away from you for you for the future. And when you need it, when you're ready for it, when it will be advantageous for you, it will come to the surface. You will remember what you need to remember, and you won't have to worry about what you didn't. But what I want you to do is get out of that. I have to do everything. I have to put it all into action. No, because that's just going to take you back to overwhelm and stress and anxiety. It'll be you failing at trying to get one more success, and that's not what you want. So choose one thing. Just choose one thing today, one simple thing that you can embrace and make yours. Choose one thing and make it into a new routine, a new habit, a new integral part of you. And then when that has become absolutely positively automatic, add in something else, and then add in something else. Try it on for size, wear it for a while, see what works and see what doesn't. Honor you above all else. Your opinion of you is the only one that matters. What you want and where you want to go in your life is the only thing that matters. Everybody else out there has had a life. They've had the decisions they needed to make, the wants that they wanted. This is your life. This is your time to honor you, to get to know you, to become all that you were always meant to be. Enjoy this month and enjoy the rest of your incredible life. It has been my honor to share this with you. If anybody wants anything, you can connect with me on Facebook on Magic for Court Reporters, also on YouTube, same moniker, Magic for Court Reporters. Everything that works has a reason for working. We think it's magic until we understand how it works. Thank you.